Other news, less fortunate news. This dropped just as this stage was finishing. Actually, the UCI just released it. They have provisionally suspended Miguel Ángel López. This has kind of been bubbling along in the background for a long time. They're currently, for background, there is currently a Spanish anti-doping investigation into
Yeah.
Dr. Marcos Minar, which is in conjunction with Spanish police, Guardia Civil, which is how all these things usually get done, is police. And anyway, first Lopez was called as a witness to the investigation into Minar, and then he was somehow connected to it himself, and then it appeared that he was a client of Minar, and then it got a bit murkier, and now, but there was no anti-doping rule violation yet. But now, this is now from the UCI statement, I'll read it out. Based on an investigation conducted by the ITA, that's the International Testing Agency, including evidence obtained by the Guardia Civil and Spanish Anti-Doping Organization during the investigation into Marcos Minar, the UCI has today notified Miguel Ángel López of a potential anti-doping rule violation. They've notified him of a potential ADRV after review of the information and material provided by the ITA on 26 June and 7 July. The Colombian rider has been notified of a potential ADRV for use and possession of a prohibited substance in the weeks prior to the Giro 2022. Remember, he abandoned the Giro 2022, I think, after the Etna stage or during, when he was, bad on Etna. The UCI has decided to provisionally suspend the rider pending the final decision. Since 1 January 21, no further comment. That's all that's relevant. It's weird. Maybe I'm a bit rusty, Benji, but usually it's like you get an ADRV and you just get suspended. But I guess they're waiting for the ITA. They must have such firm evidence from ITA. They don't want this guy doing world championships. This is what this says to me. There's so much smoke from the ITA that to show the UCI. They're like, fuck, we can't have this guy do world champs when we're going to give him a proper sanction like a week after. I think that's why this has come out.
I think so as well. And like when it comes to Lopez, they just announced their team with him included for Colombia. So it was meant to be him at the World Championship. So he's not going to be there as a consequence of the suspension. Now, I swear I read something about all the things that might have led to this ages ago about what might have went down at the Giro when it comes to Lopez, but I'm not sure if that story has been 100% confirmed, so I don't want to shout it out and maybe slander the guy either, but it's looking like the story might actually be turning to being a true story, and I think it's a good thing that he's caught if that's the case.
Yeah, and I wonder, there was a soigneur as well. I think on the Astana team, whether they were fired or not, I think they were let go.
Yes.
But yeah, he DNF'd the Etna stage, so... But this is only in relation to use before the Giro. So
maybe they have some documentation that they now know that was present, that possession was present before the Giro to be used during the Giro, something like that. Just throwing out straws here.
Anyway, I dare say the final sanction or decision from the ITA and the UCI will come out in the coming weeks or months. But yeah, he's been provisionally suspended. And this will also for sure mean that, I mean, him and Quintana are already basically blacklisted from all the World Tour and Pro Conti teams because, like, their performances are obviously very good. Like, if you look at Lopez's performance this year, the guy's won every race, doing huge numbers. Like, Lopez right now, this year, however he's done it, he's a top 10 climber in the world, at worst. And so he already was, all the other teams weren't touching him. And this basically means for sure no team will be like trying to take him to the Vuelta if they want to, give him a contract. But Quintana's a separate issue. Quintana is very different in that we know everything, or at least we think we do, about Quintana. It's done. Quintana used tramadol in the Tour de France on 2 stages. He had his Tour de France results just annulled. Arkea terminated his contract. It's not an anti-doping rule violation at present, but he's still on the blacklist. I don't know whether that will change for the Vuelta. There's so many rumors, of course, but I can't see it changing too soon either. him. But it's actually quite different, the two cases.
And when it comes to the Quintana case, a lot of people start throwing around the fact that a lot of teams are part of the NPCs for a C, for example, and therefore can't sign riders that have been in contact with the likes of Tramadol before. I don't actually know if that's a rule by the NPCC. I don't think that's true. But I don't mind that being a rule by the NPCC. If you're in the NPCC, then you might as well hold yourself to that in the first place. Otherwise, you're just in it to pretend you're according to that rules, in my personal opinion. Now, if you're not in the NPCC and you end up signing Quintana, you're not doing anything illegally, but I do think you're going to have some reputation loss.
Yeah, maybe. Probably, yeah. But in the end, some of these teams are about to could get relegated. So okay. If your team doesn't exist, then there's no reputation to protect. That's the unfortunate joke, but it's a tough quandary to be in. That you might not want to take a risk. But yeah, it's clear that Quintana also has the level to be on a team, but teams are deciding, it's not worth it. Okay, that maybe it's a good thing. Teams are like, okay, yes, it's not technically a doping violation, but this guy used something that wasn't allowed. He got in the biggest race of the year. And by the way, very expensive tests. So I would very much doubt that they are doing tramadol testing at minor races. It is very, very expensive, those tests, especially as it's not a technically yet an anti-doping product. It's for the rider's health product. I believe the UCI wanted to go on the doping list, and it will be soon. Yeah, but that's up to WADA, I think.
I think
and yeah, teams are like, it's not worth it.
I think WADA has announced that it will be on the list in, was it 2024, 2025? Yeah. I remember an article by Reuters last year that was going to be changing, which, if that's the case, then I think a lot of people should just avoid trying to sign Quintana as a consequence of that either, because otherwise you're just signing someone that took something that will be on the ban list in a year, to be honest.
Yeah, well, lots of people took it in the 20-teens. But it wasn't banned then, so that's a separate discussion. But anyway, that was news today. Kind of curious timing, but I think I think the UCI, they've seen enough. Obviously, they've seen enough strong evidence from the ITA and from that investigation, and they've suspended Lopez provisionally. And we'll wait for further news, but